Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty big decision for anyone thinking about using precious metals in a gold IRA to secure their financial future.
That's right. We're comparing two major players, Augusta Precious Metals and American Hartford Gold.
Exactly. And, with all the options out there, figuring out which company is the right fit can feel, well, a bit overwhelming.
It really can. So our goal today isn't just a quick look. We're going to unpack the key differences, really get into the weeds based on a detailed comparison we've got here.
Yep. The idea is to help you understand which one might align better with, your specific needs, your investment style.
We've got a solid report guiding us, covering the crucial aspects.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Where should we start? Maybe something fundamental like the customer experience, how they actually treat you.
Good starting point. Customer service, it really can make or break the experience, can it? So the analysis suggests Augusta Precious Metals really leans into a personalized approach. They're known for having knowledgeable support staff, lots of educational materials, and a process that feels, well, seamless. The report mentions they really focus on guiding clients, walking them through every single step.
So it sounds like they're aiming for a very supportive, maybe even educational environment, especially for folks newer to gold IRAs.
That seems to be the vibe, yeah. Building that relationship, providing that detailed support.
Okay, and what about American Hartford Gold? How do they compare on the service front?
They also get positive marks, definitely, but the description is more streamlined, efficient.
Streamlined, so maybe less hand-holding, more direct.
Potentially, yes. The
Okay.
report suggests while they're responsive, you might not get quite the same depth of interaction or that intense educational focus you apparently get with Augusta.
Interesting. So maybe better for investors who kind of know the ropes already and just want to get things done?
That could be it. Efficiency might be their priority of catering to those who are comfortable and prefer a quicker process.
And it's not just us guessing.
Right.
The comparison actually had feedback from investors.
It did. There was a quote from an Augusta investor really praising the detailed market insights and that tailored service.
Okay. Yeah.
And then a Hartford Gold investor highlighted how much they valued the straightforward process and the quick turnaround times.
Right. So it really highlights the difference, boils down to what you, the listener, prefer. Do you want that deep dive education and constant support?
Or do you value speed and efficiency more? It's a key thing to think about for your own style.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on from service. Let's dig into what you can actually invest in, the products themselves. What's on offer?
Right, the metals. Augusta Precious Metals, according to the report, has a pretty extensive range. We're talking gold and silver bullion coins, IRA-eligible premium coins, bars in different sizes.
So lots of variety within gold and silver. Focus on diversification.
Seems like it, yeah. Offering a wide selection seems to be their focus within those two metals.
And American Hartford Gold. What's their product mix look like?
They obviously offer gold and silver too, but they also bring platinum and palladium into the mix for their gold IRAs.
Oh, okay. So they add those other two precious metals.
Exactly. They mention offering coins from well-regarded mints, Australia, Canada, the U.S.
So the takeaway here seems to be both offer variety, but if platinum or palladium are specifically part of your strategy, American Hartford Gold explicitly includes them.
Precisely. Whereas Augusta might have a wider selection purely within gold and silver.
Got it. Okay, so we know what you can buy. Now, the big question for many, what does it cost? Let's talk pricing and fees.
Always crucial. What did the comparison say here?
Well, for Augusta Precious Metals, the emphasis seems to be strongly on transparency. No hidden fees. That's a phrase that comes up.
Okay.
They apparently lay out the upfront costs, clearly set up, annual custodian fees, storage fees. Clarity seems key for them.
That's definitely appealing. And American Hartford Gold.
They promote competitive pricing, and they are upfront about setup fees. But the advice in the comparison is for you, the listener, to be diligent.
Meaning
Meaning you should definitely ask detailed questions to make sure you understand all the potential costs, maybe things beyond just the initial setup.
Right. So Augusta highlights total transparency, while with Hartford Gold, you might need to probe a bit more to get the full picture on every single potential fee down the line.
Exactly. Being thorough is important with any investment, but may be especially pertinent here based on the report's advice regarding Hartford Gold.
That upfront clarity from Augusta could be a big plus if knowing all costs from day one is really important to you.
Definitely something to weigh. Okay, let's shift gears to something equally vital. Security and reputation. Trust is huge here.
Absolute paramount. How do they stack up?
Both seem to have solid reputations overall. But Augusta Precious Metals really stands out in the analysis. They have very high ratings from consumer trust sites, lots of praise for service and reliability.
What contributes to that strong reputation?
The comparison suggests a serious focus on compliance. They mention an in-house compliance team using an independent inspector, even doing voluntary third-party audits.
Wow, that's quite a commitment to oversight. That sounds pretty rigorous.
It does. It seems to pay off in their trust signals. The report highlights 0 complaints ever with both the Better Business Bureau, where they have an A+,
0. That's impressive.
and the Business Consumer Alliance, where they're rated AAA. 0 complaints on both is, yeah, pretty remarkable in any industry.
That really speaks volumes about how they handle issues or perhaps prevent them in the first place. What else?
Well, there's recognition, too. Money Magazine named them Best Overall Gold IRA Company for both 2023 and 2024. Investopedia called them out for most transparent pricing those same years.
Okay, so consistent recognition.
Yeah, and TrustLink's Best of Award for 6 years running. Plus, they offer guarantees like a 7-day money-back guarantee, 100% satisfaction, and a highest buyback price guarantee.
Those guarantees add another layer of confidence, don't they? It suggests they stand behind their service and pricing.
For sure. Now, what about American Hartford Gold on the reputation front?
They also have a good track record, generally speaking. They're recognized for being straightforward and satisfying customers.
What?
But the comparison suggests maybe not the same intense focus on compliance structures or quite as many high-profile accolades as Augusta.
And what about the complaint data? We mentioned Augusta's 0.
Right, that's a key differentiator highlighted in the report. While Augusta has 0 on BBB and BCA, American Hartford Gold, according to the source, had 36 complaints closed in the last 3 years.
36, okay.
And 21 of those were closed just within the last 12 months. Now, complaints happen, and they were closed, but the volume difference compared to Augusta's 0 is noticeable.
Yeah, that's a significant difference. So if a absolutely spotless complaint record and that deep commitment to compliance are top priorities for you, Augusta seems to have a clear edge there.
Agreed. That's a major point of distinction based on this analysis.
Okay, the comparison also kind of summarized the key highlights for each company. Let's run through those quickly.
Good idea. Quick recap of their main strengths. What stood out for Augusta?
Right, for Augusta, that commitment to compliance we just talked about, the internal team, independent checks, audits, the super strong trust signals, 0 complaints, high ratings, awards, those peace of mind guarantees. And their in-house expertise is highlighted, particularly mentioning Devlin Steele, who's a Harvard-trained economist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, apparently he does free one-on-one web conferences for qualified prospects folks with over $100 K in savings, offering some high-level economic insights.
So access to expert analysis is part of their offering for some clients.
Seems like it. And finally, they combine that streamlined IRA processing with the personalized approach we discussed earlier. It paints a picture of a company geared towards maybe more substantial investors looking for deep expertise and maximum security.
Very clear picture. And the highlights for American Hartford Gold.
For them, the focus seems to be on accessibility. More accessible investment options, especially maybe for beginners. They provide educational materials too, responsive customer service, and a streamlined purchase process. They also mentioned the potential for home delivery if you're buying metals outside of an IRA.
Right, direct purchase option.
Yeah, so it suggests they might be appealing more to those just starting out, or perhaps investors looking for a simpler transaction, maybe with smaller initial amounts.
Which brings us neatly to the minimum investment question. You hinted at it.
All right.
What are the actual numbers?
This is a big one. Augusta Precious Metals requires a $50,000 minimum investment to open a gold IRA with them.
$50,000. Okay, that's a significant starting point.
It is. And American Hartford Gold.
Much lower. Their minimum is $10,000 for a gold IRA.
$10,000. Wow. Okay, that is a huge difference. $50K versus $10.
Massive difference. It makes American Hartford Gold accessible to a much wider range of people, budget-wise. Augusta's higher minimum clearly positions them towards investors with more substantial retirement savings to roll over or invest.
That minimum alone could be the deciding factor for many listeners, couldn't it?
Absolutely. It's a very practical barrier or entry point, depending on your perspective.
Okay. Now, assuming you meet the minimum, how do you actually get your existing retirement funds into one of these gold IRAs? What about rollovers?
Good news on that front. Both companies facilitate rollovers from existing accounts like 401ks or traditional IRAs.
So they help with the paperwork and process.
Yes, the report indicates both have teams to support you through that process, aiming to make it smooth and help you avoid any tax penalties, which is obviously crucial when moving retirement funds.
Right, you don't want to mess that up.
Okay.
So that service seems standard for both. What about getting your money out eventually? Selling back the metals?
Both offer buyback programs. It's pretty standard practice in the industry. They'll offer to buy back the metals you purchased from them.
But it's not guaranteed you get your original investment back, right?
Correct. The price they offer will depend on the market price of the metals at that specific time, which, fluctuates.
And there might be fees involved in the buyback too.
Yes, the comparison mentions that fees or certain conditions might apply to the buyback process. So it's important to understand those terms up front when you invest.
Okay, something to clarify with them directly. And tax implications. We touch on rollovers avoiding penalties, but what about the gold IRA itself?
Generally, a gold IRA works similarly to a traditional IRA tax-wise. Contributions might be tax deductible, depending on your situation.
And the growth.
The gains on your precious metals investments are typically tax deferred. You don't pay taxes on the growth year to year.
Until you take distributions in retirement.
Exactly. Then those distributions are usually taxed as ordinary income. But, and this is important, the specific rules can be complex.
So talk to a tax pro.
Definitely. The comparison strongly recommends consulting with a qualified tax advisor to understand how it all applies to your personal financial situation. Don't rely solely on the gold company for tax advice.
Sound advice. Okay, one last cost element. Ongoing fees. What about those annual charges?
Right. These aren't one-time setup costs. Both Augusta and American Hartford Gold will charge annual fees. These typically cover custodian services.
The company that legally holds your IRA assets.
Correct. And also secure storage fees for the physical metals, which have to be held in an approved depository.
And do the amounts differ much?
The comparison notes that the specific amounts for these custodian and storage fees can vary between the two companies.
So another thing to get a clear breakdown on.
Absolutely essential. You need to factor those ongoing annual costs into your overall investment plan. Get a complete, transparent breakdown before committing.
Makes sense. So after laying all this out, comparing service, products, fees, reputation, all of it,
Right.
did the author of this comparison, Doug Young, lean one way or the other? What was his verdict?
He did state a preference. Based on the comprehensive analysis, Doug Young favored Augusta Precious Metals.
And his main reasons.
He pointed specifically to their strong commitment to compliance, that transparent pricing structure we discussed, their focus on educating customers, the personalized service model, and significantly, that flawless record of zero complaints. Those were the key factors driving his preference.
Okay, so his analysis led him to favor Augusta based on those points. But
Yeah.
as we've discussed, both seem to have their own strengths, right?
Exactly. It's not necessarily one size fits all. Augusta really shines, it seems, for investors who prioritize that deep service, absolute transparency on costs, and a top-tier compliance and reputation record, and who meet that higher $50K minimum.
Right, and American Hartford Gold.
They offer that much lower entry point, the $10K minimum, making them far more accessible, plus a more streamlined process and the inclusion of platinum and palladium. That could appeal more to beginners, those with smaller amounts to invest, or people who specifically want those other metals.
So the best choice really does depend on you, the listener. Your financial situation, what you value most in a service provider, your investment goals.
Precisely. You need to reflect on what we've discussed. How important is that intense customer support versus efficiency? Is the product range the deciding factor? How critical is absolute pricing clarity upfront versus competitive pricing that might require more questions?
And that zero complaint record versus a good record with some complaints. And of course, that big difference in the minimum investment. Which of those resonates most with your priorities?
And the logical next step, as the comparison suggests, is probably to reach out. Contact representatives from both companies.
Yeah, talk to them directly. Ask your specific questions. Get information tailored to you. See how the interaction feels.
Don't hesitate to really grill them on the details, especially regarding fees and the buyback process.
Absolutely. Because investing in precious metals for retirement, it's a significant financial move. It's not something to take lightly.
Thorough research, careful consideration of your own circumstances, that's really key to making a decision that helps secure your financial future.
Well, hopefully this deep dive has given you a much clearer picture of Augusta Precious Metals and American Hartford Gold and helped you think through the important factors.
Thanks for joining us today as we explored this comparison. We hope it proves valuable as you navigate your options.